If you're looking at the same data as I am, things are going to get a lot worse before they get any better.
Firestorms can flatten large areas of forest. There's very little we could possibly do to fight them in a conventional sense.
Fire! Forget your stuff, just go!
Lightning strike! I can count 2, 3 fires!
The fire's still heading towards the city. We're going to have to start evacuating. Tell the pilot to get those firefighters out.
Do you read me? Get out of there!
These massive firestorms are an all-consuming power. The sound is incredible. It literally is like a locomotive running next to your ear.
We've got to go this way!
Heat may soon be the least of our worries.
Sydney is a city of 4 million people on the brink of disaster. Situated on the southeast coast of Australia, it lies right next to the biggest firebomb on the planet. Sydney is literally covered in vegetation, and surrounding the city is 2,300 square miles of brush, known as the bush. Now it's all flammable because of Australia's extremely dry summer weather. Heat, wind, lightning. This powerful combination causes dozens of wildfires here every year. None have ever devastated the city. But if the right conditions came together at the right time, only a miracle could stop the destructive power of the perfect firestorm. Panic would grip the city, infrastructure would be destroyed, and the human loss would be unimaginable.
Yet another beautiful sunny day, and there's still no sign of rain as the drought now enters its 18th month. Temperatures are expected to rise into the 40s, and the total fire ban will remain in place for the foreseeable future.
With so much at stake, the area has the largest fire department in the world. A special urban division numbering over 6,000 protects the city. In the bush, there's a rural outfit made up of 69,000 volunteers. This year, everyone is on edge.
You haven't been called in yet?
No, not yet. All the divisions are still on alert like yesterday and the day before, but the bush could still go any minute, and big this time.
You get called in, you be careful.
Warning signs around the city alert people to how serious the threat of fire is each day. With 1 million people living in or near the bush, no one wants a repeat of what happened in the Australian capital of Canberra. On January the 8th, 2003, over 100 brush fires ignited 31 miles from the city. Driven by winds moving at 74 miles per hour, the fires raced toward Canberra. When they hit the suburbs, firefighters were quickly overwhelmed as the blazes turned into a firestorm. Firestorms are formed when multiple fires unite into one massive front. Extreme amounts of heat cause the air above it to rise rapidly, sucking in cooler air from ground level. Burning embers litter the sky and swirling winds create fire vortices. The storm has then become self-sustaining.
There were firestorms that were running throughout the city. Major fire fronts occurred, and there just weren't enough resources to reach it appropriately and prevent these firestorms from occurring.
4 people died in Canberra. Hundreds of homes were destroyed.
Sydney could also definitely face the same threats that Canberra did if the fuel is allowed to develop to such a state where you have a very heavy fuel load. We could definitely see a situation like that occurring in and around the city centres as well.
And if it did, it would be worse. Far more people live here, and there's every chance a firestorm wouldn't stop at the suburbs. Sydney is primed for the worst wildfire of all. So what would make it happen? a weather pattern that would start at least 2 years earlier. The first stage is a system that plays havoc with Australia's seasons. It's an irregular phenomenon called La Niña. An unusually warm current in the Pacific Ocean creates vast moisture-laden clouds. When they hit the coast of Australia, they unleash tons of rain. The rain causes the bush around the city to grow at a staggering rate. But even worse for Sydney is if La Niña is then followed by a very different system.
Can't we have the air on just for a second? I'm boiling.
It's not that hot. Saving fuel.
If I sweat anymore, I'll be as dry as those trees.
Doubt that. You haven't gone for a year and a half without water.
Feels like it.
The second weather pattern needed to create the perfect firestorm is known as El Niño. Whereas La Niña brings nothing but rain to this part of Australia, El Niño does the exact opposite. It causes a drought that lasts for months and sometimes even years.
When we have an El Nino event, the fire risks go up enormously in this part of the world because the plants are adapted to the drought. The plants adapt by dropping leaves, and the leaves create fuel for fires.
The longer the drought lasts, the more the fuel builds up. Combine this with high summer temperatures and more than 250,000 acres, and just one spark could spell disaster. The risk goes up even higher during the December holiday season, putting forest rangers on high alert.
Good afternoon. Is everything okay out here?
Fine.
Just like to remind everybody that there is a total fire ban out here. This whole area is at maximum fire risk. That means no campfires, no cooking, nothing with an open flame.
Have a good time. That's about 1 million flies. It's really hot out here.
If those weather reports were right, the heat may soon be the least of our worries.
The dense brush around the city is on the verge of igniting, and now the situation is about to get worse. 50 miles to the west, a bad storm front is brewing. But this is no ordinary storm. It's called a dry storm, and it is the one everyone fears. Dry storms are formed when rising masses of hot air collide with areas of moist air high in the atmosphere. As the two mix, they generate clouds and winds. As the cycle continues, the clouds grow bigger and the winds faster. At the top of the storm, ice forms. Normally when it falls, it melts into rain. But this storm is so high, and the air below it so warm, the rain evaporates before it hits the ground. A storm that brings no rain and only high winds is potentially disastrous, as it could drive a fire in the bush into the heart of the city.
Todd, what's your problem?
Camping, remember?
Yeah, you heard the rangers, no fire.
How can you go camping without a campfire? Go get some wood!
No.
While nature creates the potential, it's often man that exploits it. Studies have shown that arsonists start 90% of all investigated fires.
Arson is a particular problem. The arsonists often light their fires when the conditions are really bad. So they'll often pick a dry, windy day to light their fires, and they're the most difficult days to control the fires on.
But there is something else that will quickly turn this small fire into a monster. Over 90% of the bushland surrounding Sydney is made up of eucalyptus trees. Its bark and leaves contain highly flammable oil. Because of hot daily temperatures, this oil vaporizes and creates a highly combustible haze that lays just above the canopy. As the fire reaches the trees, the explosive vapor ignites, accelerating the spread of the fire.
Rachel, get out of here! There's a fire! Get your stuff!
Of course there's a fire! You started, didn't you?
Come on! That way! Go there! Go! 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 Forget your stuff! Forget your stuff! Just go! Go!
Rachel! Rachel!
G'day, Sydney. The fire season has started with one fire already being spotted in the Glendale Park region. Early reports suggest that the cause was holidaymakers. The fire department are saying that if this is the case, those responsible will be prosecuted.
The responsibility for coordinating all major firefighting operations in the bush falls to the rural fire chief.
You too. Have they confirmed the cause of that first fire in Glendale yet?
A campfire got out of control. We're assuming it's an accident, but at the moment, it's impossible to tell.
Why do total fire bans always bring out the nut jobs? We don't have enough to deal with. You better warn the police that things are going to start getting busy for them.
I got good news and bad news.
Okay, give me the good news first and then improvise from there.
At the moment, it's a single fire. It started sometime last night. So we isolate it, we take it down, then we're all home by lunch. The bad news is that wind's picking up. So they're calling in the group officers just in case it gets out of hand. Gotta go. Wish me luck.
Who's going to look after this place?
You're a fireman. I'm sure you can heat up your own frozen meal.
Fed by the heat rising from the parched landscape, the dry storm is gaining energy by the hour. The winds at its front fan the flames, increasing their spread. For the firefighters, it's now a race against time to get the situation under control.
Okay, fellas, come on!
The fire has spread from here to Alpha, Bravo and Charlie sectors. So far, we've managed to contain it. It's here in the Delta sector we're most worried. The latest weather data shows that storm's only an hour away. The weather people say it's a high one, and we all know what that means.
The higher the storm, the less likely it is to rain. And because of the violent mixing of warm and cold air at the heart of the storm, the winds it's generating are getting stronger. The best place to assess them is in the air. It's also the best vantage point from which to coordinate the ground attack.
Jimmy, up there, head of the fire!
Coordinating the 100 firefighters deployed to deal with the blaze is vital. The one hope now is that the winds will not spread the fire beyond their control.
Send 3 brigades to map reference 27 Delta. Set a backbone all on the east-west ridge to the north.
Firefighters know the best way to control a blaze is to cut off its fuel supply. Surprisingly, the best way to do that is to set even more fires. Fire is one of the few forces in nature that can defy gravity. It travels faster uphill than down. As the trees ignite at the bottom of a slope, the heat and flames rise, priming the trees further up. Now add the winds and the fire is rapidly driven uphill. On the other side of the slope, firefighters set smaller fires, which quickly burn up all the available fuel so that when the main fire reaches the top, there is nothing ahead of it left to burn. It stalls and dies. It's an effective weapon against major fires, but it doesn't always work.
Backburning should be undertaken by very experienced people and in the right conditions. I've seen a lot of backburns make fires a lot bigger than they ever should be, and I've seen a lot of backburns put in that you wouldn't think you'd stop fires, that have stopped them completely, put in at the right time by experienced staff.
With the back burn a success and the fuel removed, the advancing fire is stopped in its tracks.
Nice work, everyone! That's a great backburn! Well done! Now, clear the area!
Maintain 800.
Using helicopters capable of dropping 9 tons of water at a time, any remaining fire is quickly smothered. Meanwhile, on the ground, the mopping up operation begins. To stop any chance of smaller fires reigniting, any smoldering brush is stamped out and doused with water. Australia's rural fire crews have already had their first taste of fire, but the season has just begun. A little less than 43 miles from Sydney, the dry storm is growing, devouring the warm air ahead of it as its winds continue to pick up speed. But what is happening inside the storm will reignite the crisis. As the ice crystals collide, they create positive and negative charges. This explosive energy is released as lightning. From a storm of this size, there can be over 100 strikes in a minute, each one capable of lighting a fire. All Sydney can do is monitor the storm's progress.
Mike, hi, Bob Rudder here. How you doing? Things are looking bad. If you're looking at the same weather data as I am, there's every chance that things are going to get a lot worse before they get any better. How many people can you put on standby in an hour?
With a big lightning storm creating fires that threaten Sydney, the rural and urban fire services combine under the leadership of the rural fire chief. He is then responsible for the safety of Sydney's 4 million people. 37 miles to the west of Sydney, the dry storm has reached maturity. The instability within the clouds is now producing hundreds of lightning strikes. It's the nightmare scenario.
Hell, tell me this isn't happening! Get me the incident controller!
Standing by to receive you.
There are lightning strikes in sectors Alpha, Delta and Foxtrot.
Hotter than the surface of the sun, a lightning bolt can ignite vegetation in an instant, leading to multiple fires in a matter of minutes.
I can count 3 fires and the wind is spreading them fast. Alert the state off center now!
As the amount of lightning strikes increase, it becomes too dangerous to fly, forcing the group captain to retreat back to base. As the storm moves, lightning continues to start more and more small fires, which the winds multiply into larger blazes. But soon it's no longer just the lightning that is starting new fires. Burning embers carried by the winds have been known to travel up to 42 miles without losing their heat. These now start to rain down on the forest, starting the fire cycle that could cause a massive firestorm all over again.
we have a ground fire, which is just a leaf litter and that burning. And then we go to a surface fire, which is the shrubs burning up to 3 to 4 metres. And then we go into a crown fire. And the crown fire is really the most dangerous.
Gusts of wind from the storm drive low-lying flames up the trunks of trees. Working its way into the uppermost branches, the fire is now transforming into the most dangerous type of wildfire, a crown fire. Feeding off the flammable vapor and parched leaves, the flames can reach up to 3 times the height of the trees, creating towering columns of flames up to 130 feet high. Once a fire has crowned, it spreads even faster as the wind drives it from one treetop to the next. The spread of the crowning fires now accelerates into overdrive. The firefighters have to stop the individual blazes from joining up, because if they don't, the single massive fire front, 1,200 miles long, will be unstoppable.
I need to know where to position my people.
If these fires do link up, what are our options?
I've got to prepare for the worst.
We've got to get personnel in between these fronts. We've got to stop them from joining up.
Using every helicopter available, the leading edge of each fire front is doused. It's a delaying tactic trying to keep them from joining up. On the ground, all 69,000 firefighters are mobilized to try and prevent the fire's advance. They know it's a battle they need to win. The helicopter dousing operations have scored only a small victory. A weak point is revealed in the growing wall of fire heading directly for the city.
The latest reports from Kurrajong show that the fire front here is less than 2 kilometres across. And we need people in here to contain it before it gets bigger.
Who's in the area?
Leslie Jennings is the group captain. She can have 4 trucks there within an hour.
Is that our only option? Give the word.
Even though the Inferno is still over 31 miles from the city, the people of Sydney are given an early warning about how big this blaze is.
Let's go!
Out on the front line, there is still a slim chance the firefighters can stop the fires from joining up and reaching the city. Once again, they need to set back burns to remove the fuel between the 2 fires. For this to be successful, they will have to work with the winds.
Okay, listen. We need to get as close as possible.
Can you guide us in?
I can, but the visibility is bad. Switching to infrared vision.
The infrared scans can penetrate through the thick smoke to ground level to monitor the increasingly unpredictable movement of the winds and fires. Even the slightest change in the weather could spell disaster for the firefighters.
Okay, Pete, I need you to head off down the Galarahan Road and start backburning. Tom, stay here. If we need to get away fast, you'll be the one we come looking for. The rest of us, we'll head to the cut-off point.
Okay, let's go! Glendale Base, this is 4582. There's a fire all along Wilberforce Road. Said your goodbyes? 'Cause once we're out of here, we might not be coming back.
I just heard on the radio they're sending more firefighters in. They're trying to stop 2 fires from linking up. They're going to need us.
Mate, can you just give me a warning when you setting up to move back, and we'll make sure we're ready for you on the ground.
Local park rangers guide the firefighters toward the best position to set their back burns.
Okay, we need to get to low ground between the fire fronts and set back burns as far as we can. Which way?
Straight through here.
All right, come on, boys.
Let's go.
Let's go.
The closer they get to the fire, the better their chance of success. But there is a dangerous new development. The rising heat from the fires is now influencing the storm above it, causing it to grow stronger and more unpredictable.
Well, that can't be right. The wind at ground level's changed direction. The fire front's swinging around.
Oh my God, they'll be caught in the dead man zone.
Leslie, do you read me? Leslie! Leslie! Do you read me? Get out of there!
The massive updrafts of rising heat from below are destabilizing the storm, causing it to change direction, trapping the firefighters in what is called the dead man zone. The dead man zone is the most hazardous place a firefighter can be caught. It's the area of unburned land to the side of a fire front. The danger is, if the wind changes direction, the fire can swing around suddenly and create a whole new larger front with fresh fuel to burn. Any firefighter in this zone will have little or no time to escape.
You're then caught with a fire front bearing down on you, and you have to act defensively if you can't evacuate immediately.
The firefighters have no choice except to run for their lives.
When a major wildfire comes very close to you, it's absolutely amazing. The sound is incredible. It literally is like a locomotive running next to your ear. Communication drops to virtually zero. If you had long hair, you could feel it being sucked towards the fire front because the fire is consuming so much air so rapidly to feed itself and to move forward that you get that situation occurring.
More familiar with the landscape, the park rangers take the lead.
Stop, we're never gonna make it! Which way?
We've got to go this way. Let's go!
Come on, you lot! Come on!
So the pilot can't get to them.
Updrafts.
Just too hot. The thermals are about to knock him out of the air as it is. He had to pull out.
There is now nothing to stop the fire fronts from merging as they burn the remaining fuel between them. Crashing into each other, the immense energy of these vast walls of fire combine to create a single front measuring over 1,200 miles. This is the moment the fire mutates into its most deadly form, the perfect firestorm. This huge fire now generates heat that causes the air above it to rise at 111 miles per hour, in the process pulling in cooler air from ground level, just like a chimney. The fire now takes on a life of its own, becoming a self-sustaining, unstoppable firestorm. As it grows, temperatures peak at over 3,600 degrees, causing the winds around it to rotate, creating swirling superheated vortices, similar to tornadoes. Firestorms move fast. It will take less than 3 hours for the raging inferno to cover the remaining 25 miles to Sydney. Against this massively destructive force of nature, the firefighters' efforts are futile. The enormous smoke clouds block out the sun, and day is turned into night.
The fire service and the fire brigade have everyone they can muster, and the fire's still heading towards the city. Ideas?
We're trying to bring in units from around the state, but the roads are either in the path of the fire or choked by smoke. We're having trouble getting in.
Out of state?
Queensland can helicopter in 200, and Canberra can get a division, but they estimate 6 to 8 hours.
It's just not quick enough. In less than 6 hours, we could lose God knows how many homes. They're going to have to start evacuating.
I'll let the incident controllers know.
With the city itself now under direct threat from the firestorm, Sydney's urban firefighters are sent into the suburbs. In a major fire, smoke shuts down the airports. The roads jam with evacuees, and the 2 northbound coastal roads become the only way out of the city.
This is becoming Australia's worst bushfire season, inflamed by tinder-dry forests, grasslands and temperatures.
Even with a fire of this magnitude, not everyone will want to evacuate and leave their homes.
Thousands of hectares of land are going up.
Residents are used to protecting their homes by clearing their roofs of leaves and soaking the outside in water. But in the face of this firestorm, these precautions will be useless. Fires moving in from outside the city aren't the only ones fire crews have to worry about. Unfortunately, this is also a time when the city is most vulnerable from the threat of fires started by arsonists. In 2001, as firefighters struggled to contain blazes surrounding Sydney, dozens of additional fires appeared in its center. Police investigations revealed they had all been deliberately lit. The arsonists know that with resources stretched to the limit, even their smallest fires can cause untold damage.
If a major wildfire occurs around the perimeter of or the edges of a city, you tend to find a lot of the resources, the firefighting resources that are there day in and day out with the city crews, are taken to go out and fight those fires. So you start getting a skeleton crew issue there, and that means the fires that you do have tend to get bigger, quicker, because you have a slower response time to get those crews to the fires.
As the firestorm grows, energy released from it is the equivalent to 30 Hiroshima bombs.
I have flame height probably over 100 feet on Warringah and Drive, impacting houses over. If I can get anything...
This is a rare situation. We need to pump this here.
There is not enough manpower or technology in the world that can stop it. As the firestorm crashes into the suburbs, firefighters are forced into retreat positions. While doing everything they can to try to slow the fire, they also mount a street-by-street evacuation of everyone living in its path. This area is known as the I zone, or impact zone. People living inside the zone must leave now or never.
State Fire Command's ordered the entire street be evacuated. Scotty, oops, take one side, Dave. You take the other.
A door-to-door evacuation is only undertaken when there is no chance of saving the neighborhood.
A residential community that is essentially surrounded or living amongst a lot of bushland is especially dangerous.
Evacuate these houses. Come on, guys, get in the back. Let's go.
Especially areas where their exit paths can be cut off by the fire front changing direction and moving. It's best just to get people out of that risk area immediately. The Australian experience tends to be pretty good in that people understand how bad bushfires are because so many people have been killed by them, even in recent years.
The whole family's out. As you head this way, thanks, down the driveway and up the street. Thank you. Thank you.
Get those people out. Come on, bring them out. Get down from there now!
Moving at 12 miles per hour, the firestorm is impossible to outrun, and it is incinerating everything in its path.
You jump in your vehicles, people, and start to move out. Thank you.
Firestorms are where we see that trees get snapped off by the force of the wind accompanying the fire. We see a total combustion of all of the fine fuels. The history shows us that firestorms can flatten large areas of forest, literally flatten them. When you see fires of that intensity, again, you know that there's very little we could possibly do to fight them in a conventional sense.
Once the firestorm hits the suburbs, it will only take a half hour before a third of Sydney is engulfed in flames. For some, escape is no longer an option. Having ripped through the suburbs, the firestorm has reached its peak. The heat it generates is now so extreme that the fire starts behaving in a way that's rarely seen. With superheated air rising at a phenomenal rate, convection columns carry the smoke to the very edge of space. The firestorm is so massive that the heat rising up from below mixes with the cold air at the top of the atmosphere, creating a unique weather system. It creates clouds called pyrocumulus, and inside them rages thunder and lightning. Sydney is now almost entirely encircled by fire. Unpredictable currents of fast-moving air above the firestorm spew embers across the center of the city. It's as if a blizzard of fire covered all of Sydney.
At night time, especially in fires, you can see massive waves of embers being pushed along with the winds. It's quite a scary sight to see, but for a firefighter that means that there's major risk wherever those embers land because they can start some major fires.
You! Mate! Yes, you, stay put. What's going on, boss?
Mate, the mains are shot, we've got no water, we've got fuel everywhere.
Scotty, come on, get into it!
Sydney is on fire. Its infrastructure goes into meltdown. Communication becomes impossible, and emergency services struggle to cope.
We've lost the power grid. What now, sir?
We've done all that we can. I just hope it turns out to be enough.
The vast heat generated by the firestorm continues to have a powerful effect on the weather system it created. The clouds become more saturated with moisture as the heat warms the cooler frozen air molecules above it. The rising heat also draws in moist air from the Tasman Sea, and when they combine, a new kind of storm develops, whose arrival may be too late for many.
We're not going to lose it. Do whatever it takes.
the firefighters work to save what little they can. And then it happens. Rain. The heavy clouds finally give way, soaking the earth below. What nature started, in the end, only nature can stop. Though this fire is out, the danger will always remain for another. In the bush, fire is just part of nature's cycle, and the bush will regenerate fast. But Sydney, brought to its knees by the firestorm, would take years to recover. Hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses would be destroyed. The human loss could be unimaginable. Current changes in climate patterns make the possibility of the perfect firestorm more of a reality every year. If and when it does happen, it could be man's ultimate test for survival.